Hi there, my name is Don. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and I have numerous issues with what's been going on in the US as far as the Trump administration and politics in general. Um, Obviously, we're going through a lot of weird situations at the moment. And there are a number of things I would like to just um, discuss as to why I'm making this video. Firstly, um, I'm not a US citizen. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not any type of expert in regards to this. I am purely stating comments in regards to what I believe to be honest and um, uh, legally, what I believe to be correct, especially as far as morals are concerned and um, people's rights and what the general public, like myself, believe to be correct, and also, um, again, as I said, more morals and stupidities, etc., etc. So please forgive me as far as that's concerned. So let me tackle numerous items, and this starts with day one of Trump's administration. Excuse me. Firstly, the pardoning of the 1,600 people who were involved in the January 6th insurrection in 2021. I can't believe that any person who saw what actually occurred on that day believes that these people who were involved in this should be given a pardon in any way, shape, or form. Yes, some people were following what the crowd said. Yes, some people were leaders in the insurrection itself, and the fact that they were egged on by Donald Trump, in my opinion, is purely despicable. If anybody else was to do something like this, it's basically trying to, in my opinion, trying to break all the laws as far as the Constitution is concerned. Certainly, local laws, and most definitely just morally unbelievable. Now, whether Donald Trump believed that he had the election stolen, which I tend to disagree with, from a lot of independent reports, etc., then that's irrespective. The fact that they did what they did was actually wrong and should never have occurred. Next, employing Elon Musk. Now, there's a lot of things in here that I believe are wrong. Firstly, let me say that finding or locating any sort of corruption or oversight or anything like that at all that has been going on within the government operations, with all the different departments, etc., is nothing wrong with doing that. However, then stating that you're going to save billions or trillions of dollars in closing down departments and things like that is just wrong. I believe that there's nothing wrong with going ahead and doing something like that if they do a proper investigation of each department. And by proper, I mean people who are qualified to do these operations and to do the investigations, rather. And then decisions can be made, especially with some of the departments that can manipulate funds going to people, etc., etc. So Elon Musk, again, not elected by anybody, appointed by Trump, and seemingly can do what he wants. I have numerous issues with him, etc. One of the big things about Trump that about Elon Musk and what the DOJ, which is Department of Justice, are doing. They are acting as lawyers on behalf of Trump and Tesla in going after people who may have, and don't get me wrong, I'm not confirming that violence is the way to go, but these people that are trying to damage the dealerships and damage the cars, yes, if they have broken the law, they should be dealt with by local law enforcement. The DOJ is just crazy, and when Pam Bondi comes out and says that anybody that attacks any of the Tesla dealerships, etc., will get 20 years in jail. Now, Pam Bondi, I am not a fan of, and I believe that she's not a qualified person to be running the Department of Justice. She is a lawyer who worked for Trump in the private sector, who lost a lot of cases for Donald Trump because she doesn't understand the law properly, I assume. But again, the government shouldn't be doing that. Again, on top of that is when Donald Trump had Elon Musk and they spent the taxpayers' money in advertising Tesla and showing Donald Trump buying a Tesla, etc., etc. That is an unpaid ad, or an ad paid for by US funds or taxpayer funds, and I totally and utterly believe that that is bordering on being criminal in the fact that it should never have occurred. So, there's a lot going on there as well. Tax cuts. Okay, so I'm not an expert in the US tax situation, but from the majority of reports, and what I'm saying there is independent reports, that the tax cuts that Trump is introducing will benefit the rich and will not do anything really for the poor. In fact, the poor will end up paying more. Again, this is going on reports that I've seen and read. So I won't go into that in great detail because I don't know enough about it. There's a lot of things that have occurred, and I'm really, really frustrated and disgusted as to some of the things that have been going on. The main one, I think, which is horrific, is the fact that the Trump administration are constantly lying to the people. And what I mean by people is not just American citizens, I'm talking about global. I can quote so many different circumstances where this has occurred. Probably the worst of these will be Carolyn Levitt. Now, she blatantly goes out and tells lies, which I'm assuming have been approved by Donald Trump. And the fact that she just tells so many gives so many inaccurate statements is just horrific. Probably the one that disgusts me and really I think is vile and horrific is yesterday, which was, I think, a day prior to what we have here, because we're in front of you in time-wise, was when she paraded a woman in front of the press corps, talking about Mr. Garcia's return to the USA. Now, she lied as far as his convictions in the USA. She lied in regards to his gang affiliations. All of this information that she had stated regarding those two items, for instance, are not fact. They are, as she says, alleged. There is no evidence that they can come up with that shows that he has been convicted of any criminal charge in the USA, and there is nothing that they can produce that shows that he is definitely a member of MS-13. So I'm really, totally against that. Bring the guy back. He is being detained in El Salvador. They say that he can't be released because it's in the El Salvador government's hands. My opinion on that is that the US government has a contract with the El Salvadorian government that they will house prisoners in the prison over there, and the US government are paying for it. Now, there is some comments that I've heard that the fact that they are paying specifically to keep him in jail over there, all I think is they are the customer of the El Salvadorian government. They have a contract with them. They have the right to determine who is being held, irrespective of legal matters over there, because the government can still have him released. Even if they have him released to a group or a person who visits El Salvador in order to take him back to the USA, I believe that the US government can demand that from the El Salvadorian government. And I think from the ridiculous telecast from the Oval Office, nobody actually asked or demanded from the El Salvadorian president to bring Mr. Garcia back or release Mr. Garcia. The El Salvadorian president had actually said they're not going to smuggle him back into the USA. That's not what I believe should happen. They should release him from the prison and put him in the hands of the American diplomats, representatives, etc., and should be flown back to the USA to be reunited with his family. I think that what Carolyn Levitt did by bringing a woman out to have to relive the horrors that happened to her daughter, who was raped and murdered, I think is disgraceful, disgusting, and having to put the woman through this again in front of the world, I think is one of the most deplorable things I've seen in many, many years. The fact that her tragedy had nothing to do with Mr. Garcia other than the fact that they were not born in the USA. The person that committed this horrific crime to this woman were not proven to be a member of any gang, etc. They were proven to be an unlawful, unstable, and disgusting person for what he did. Now, that's fine. I mean, trying to bring that up to put the case forward that Mr. Garcia shouldn't be returned is gross. Now, had that horrific crime been done by a regular US citizen, we wouldn't even be talking about this. It's purely to say that this is what happens with illegal aliens going into the States. Now, I'm not saying that illegal immigrants are not lawful abiding citizens, because not all of them are. A lot are, and the reason they've come to the US is to give themselves and their families a better life. As far as we'll get on to the next one, which is the deportation of illegal aliens. Now, I am not defending illegal aliens. I am not defending some of the gangs or crimes that these people commit. But not all of these people are guilty of crimes. And I think that assuming that somebody is a member of a gang, has committed horrific crimes, I think the term of terrorist is a bit too much. But the fact that the Trump administration are not giving these people their rights in a court of law to be proven guilty. If you have a rapist, murderer, child molester, etc., 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 and they've been found guilty in a court of law, that they then give up their rights to be there, irrespective whether they are an illegal alien or a legal alien. So if the law states that you can send these people off, these criminals, proven criminals, if the law says that you can send them off or deport them to a particular place, then that's okay. If it's not a lawful thing to do and you deport them back to their country of origin, then so be it. I have no issues with any administration cleaning out those illegal aliens or legal aliens that are committing horrific crimes. No problems at all. Send them out of the country. I have no issues with that at all. The way this has been done without them having their rights to be judged by their peers, basically, to me, is ridiculous. The way that ICE are going about it is ridiculous. I think that it borders on being human trafficking, because if you think about it, a human trafficker that kidnaps a person from the streets or wherever and then sells them on to another party are guilty of trafficking, and we're getting close to that being the same thing with what's occurred with the illegal deportation of people. So that's my comments on that. Then we get to the defying of the courts. Okay, again, I'm not a legal expert, so let me just put this before you. When any government official takes office, they pledge allegiance to the United States and the Constitution. Now, what's going on here is the people in charge, and I'm going to say from Donald Trump down, are blatantly disregarding the courts as far as the rulings are concerned. And this is quite evident at the moment, where people are, or judges are actually threatening to charge lawyers for DOJ with criminal contempt. So if you pledge allegiance to the government, to the people of the US and to the Constitution, and you are clearly breaking that, I think there should be consequences, irrespective. That brings me on back to the thing about lying, and I am appalled that politically you can go and lie in front of the people, have it on record, whether it be in the Congress, etc., where you blatantly tell a lie. And there are so many instances where I've seen on video where there have been claims made by certain senators and Congress people where they are blatantly lying and are doing everything to keep themselves in the front. So lying to the people, whether it be to the American public and to the rest of the world, I think is just unacceptable. I know that, for instance, in Australia, if our Prime Minister or other ministers were to lie to the public, like we've seen and heard from the US administration, they would be dealt with so fast. You are telling people what you are doing or what has happened and blaming others. I really just don't understand why the people making the comments cannot be held responsible, because it's creating a lot of unrest between people in the USA. And, I know that there are people that love Donald Trump and love what he stands for and how he's going about it. But please get your fact checking correct. I try and listen to both sides, but if there's evidence proving one way or the other, I'll go with the evidence every time. So I'll get on to the Russian and Ukraine situation. Clearly, even before the election last year, Donald Trump was backing the Ukrainian people and saying, that it shouldn't have happened, it's disgraceful, and that he would end the war within 24 hours of taking office. Okay, so obviously that hasn't occurred. But then he goes out and he blames Zelensky and says that Zelensky is responsible for this war. My opinion on that is that Trump has targeted the fact that he wants what Russia is fighting for, and Russia wants the natural resources that Ukraine has to offer. Now, discussions that Trump has had with Putin, and again, this is me speculating, could be the fact that he's told Putin that he'll get Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire or finalising, and let Russia take the property that they have, providing that Trump can have half of what they're talking about. I don't know. To me, that's what it looks like. There's the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I can't understand why that's occurring. Similarly, with what's going on in Israel and the Palestinians, and how Trump says he wants to take over the Gaza Strip. Well, what is he doing before he was the president? He's a property developer. Will he benefit from that if he takes over? If he then takes control of the properties and he develops it for his benefit? Again, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's what I believe is the case. So, really, and that all that's doing in both cases is giving the open opportunity for World War III, because he's doing that. So we get on then to what he's stated about both Canada and Greenland, that he wants them. He said that straight up. He's also said in both cases that if it means taking them over with force, he has mentioned that in both cases. All I can say is elbows up, Canada. Keep going with what you're going. I think that I was never a fan of Trudeau as a Prime Minister. His last speech that he made to the Canadian people and the US people, I think, was probably one of the better speeches I've heard. Since then, of course, the actions taken by Canadians against the US have been perfect. I think that they are standing strong, and again, Trump is shooting himself in the foot. I know that the Canadians are now speaking to other countries about where they can sell their products and where they can buy their products. Good for you, Canada. Greenland, guys, stand firm like you are. Denmark's behind you. The rest of the EU is behind Denmark, and I believe the rest of the world is behind them as well. If Trump was to take action against military action against either of the parties, I believe that would create a huge conflict within the USA. Again, morally, what can be done to stop it, I don't know. It's just disgraceful. The next thing comes down to Donald Trump and his self-importance. Let's just call it that. He has gone after companies that have gone after him or have said bad things about him because they're not being nice to him. They're not following what he wants. And I'm talking about legal firms, and I'm talking about the media. Now, not all the media are terrific. There are certain parts of the media that are, I'll say corrupt. That's probably not the right word, but they just blatantly follow whatever Trump says or go against Trump for whatever reason, whether they be Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. You get them on both sides. However, it is a right of the press to have free speech. It's a right of every US citizen to have free speech. You can't censor. Just have a look at what happens in Russia and North Korea and China. Not so much these days, but you have reports basically written by the politicians to say this is what you can report. And that's exactly what I think Trump wants. Trump wants every media outlet to believe what he says and to report what he says as being correct. So, trying to ban reporters from the press room, trying to have broadcasting licenses cancelled because you don't like what that network has to say, is totally against everything that the US Constitution stands for. Say what you feel. If you don't like President Biden, you don't like the Democrats, get your soapbox, get out and stand up and tell people. It's then up to the people to fact check and agree or disagree. So people have choices. But the way Trump's going is he wants everybody to have his choice, not be able to make their own decision based on the information they're given by the media. So that's my pace on that. There's so many things that I can't believe. A lot of the people that he's... Okay, so let's use Signalgate as an example. Okay, so I was working for a freight company that was engaged to look after or help look after US Antarctic vessels, or vessel in particular. And through that was an independent company who was working on behalf of the US government in order to keep the projects going down in Antarctica. Now, I was there to assist in the purchasing of items and making sure that experiments were unloaded off the ship and sent back to the US or other countries, and to import new projects that were going on board the ship. Now, whenever there was something that was required where the team I was working with had to ask me to make a purchase on their behalf, like for instance a waste paper bin or a rubbish bin, I wasn't able to even look at a computer of the people I was working with and watch them put in a purchase order. It's a matter of security, right? Now, we're talking about the purchase of a $40 rubbish bin, and they were just doing a purchase order, sending it back to their office in the USA, who then gets approval from the government to purchase anything. So that's how tight security is for the US government. But for people in the administration, senior administration members, to be emailing on a social network, on a public network, where anything could be found by any of the hackers that are around, whether it be in the US, Russia, China, Netherlands, whoever it happened to be. It doesn't matter. You've actually published information about a military action that's about to take place 2 hours before it was taking place. So, is that an act that is subject to criminal actions, whether it be as a trader, or even just the fact that you've released information. Again, I think that somewhere along the line, someone needs to hold that team accountable, and they should be fired and possibly prosecuted because they have divulged that information. Now, all we hear back from Trump is, but it was a successful operation. Yeah, that's great, but it would have been a successful operation had they have not done it. And imagine what would have happened if that information was passed on by a non-friendly government to the terrorists involved, and you had lost ships, planes, any of the pilots, crew members of the ships, etc., etc. What would we be talking about now? And you're defending these people for being so stupid. I think it's ridiculous. And the fact that we haven't heard of all the other instances when protocols have been broken. So let's leave that one. I have so many things that I hear on a daily basis. Some of the things are ridiculous and stupid. For instance, renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, let's face it, what is the difference? What is going to be the difference? You are changing one word from another, from one to another. Is it going to matter to anybody around the world? No. Where is the Gulf of Mexico? It's in the USA. That's where it is. You could call it the Gulf of Trump. And although that would cause a huge uproar, it wouldn't matter. People are still going to remember it as what it is and where it is. It's in the USA boundaries. Yes, fine, terrific. But you're spending time and money doing this. Crazy. The next thing, again, I think is just comical, is you announce the fact that English is going to be the official language of the United States. Well, a couple of things. Firstly, looking at your tweets, etc., that you post, how can you say that if you can't spell or use correct? I'm trying to think what it is now. I just can't. But you can't get it right yourself. Why didn't you just tell the world that the official language of the US is going to be American and not English? Because there are differences between English in the US and English in the rest of the world, and that is spelling and what some words mean in other parts of the world. So again, you're spending government money on stupid, ridiculous things that don't matter. One of the disgusting things was the return of the 4 killed soldiers from Europe that were brought back to the States. You could not spend the time on the return of the bodies to show some sort of compassion and recognition of what they had actually gone through and how they died, etc. No, you had to go and play golf, because golf is more important than the military and what they put in to keep the US free. One of the most despicable and disgusting things I've seen. I can't even tell you. I'd love to use more colourful language, but I just can't do it. But furthermore from that is what you're doing to the universities in the US, where you are trying to take control. You want the universities to teach what you want them to teach. You are trying to manipulate who they employ, who they accept as students. You want to stop any sort of backlash on your policies and what's happening within the world. Again, this is just crazy. And taking away Harvard's grants, which I believe was $5.5 billion, is just criminal. You want people to go to these education businesses, let's call them, universities, any schools, and you want them to be free thinking. You want them to be able to develop and or do research, etc., on anything that can help the world, right? The general public. And by cutting their funding, you are going to just send students off to other countries, which may also include China and Russia, or Canada, etc. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. So I can't believe that you're actually doing that as well. There are so many things I could say, but now to reach out to the elected representatives in Congress and in the Senate. A lot of Republicans are towing the line, as we call it here in Australia, where the party will come up with a plan and their goal is set at whatever it happens to be. So you pull the line. You do what you're told. I can understand that in a lot of ways because there may be something that's there, and it happens in all parties. So it's something that needs to be looked at. The issues that I have here is you are agreeing to all these ridiculous and immoral issues that Trump and his administration are pushing forward. You are backing up some of these fools that he has running different departments. The people are really uprising. Your majority in both houses is now under question, and you go to the polls again next year. With doing that, you are at this stage likely to lose your seat if you are a Republican. So my belief is you will have more respect from both sides of the floor and independents if you come out and be honest and truthful. If you personally disagree with something that is being pushed by the Trump administration, then you speak up. If you believe it, fine. But remember that a lot of the stuff that he's doing, the people are revolting. And by revolting means that you, the representative for that state, are likely to be overlooked, let's say, and it'll go the opposite direction. If you do not believe in what Trump is pushing, then speak up, because it's going to mean a lot to your constituents in the long run, if you believe it is ridiculous, as most of the politicians that I see coming through. And there are certain congresswomen that I have issues with, one being Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, I cannot believe that she has been elected to Congress. I cannot believe she has made it to the different committees. She is an evil woman. her town hall from a couple of days ago, where she was having people removed from the town hall. The claim is that they're Democrats there to cause problems. Now, remembering that you are elected by the people to look after the constituents under that area, right? That elected area. They be Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter. You are there to represent them. Now, people are uprising against you because you are an evil woman. The stuff that gets said by you in public is just disgraceful. You have your beliefs, that's fine. Don't push them on everybody else. Your personal attacks on people are disgraceful. You should be ashamed of yourself. And to call yourself a human being, I'm sorry, I just don't like it. As far as Congresswoman Crockett's concerned, keep fighting. You're doing well. I've got more I could say on that, but I'm not going to. There are things that just seem so stupid that I don't understand why Trump would be doing this. The only thing I can think of is, A, he wants to run the country as he wants to. In other words, he wants to be a dictator. He wants to control everything. He wants everything. The privatisation of the departments, I'm sure somewhere along the line there has been an agreement between Musk and him that their companies will take over some of these privatisation of government departments. What you're doing to the government departments is just horrific. To the veterans, I'm not a I'm a peace-loving person. I'm not into the military. However, when you have people that go and fight for the democracy of the United States and the rest of the world, and when they return, they are treated like shit. And I'm sorry, that's overdoing it, but that's what's happening. And you're cutting down veteran affairs and social security to make it more difficult for these people. The veterans, you should be looking after. You should be looking after them, no questions asked, especially the ones that are suffering from injuries and mental situations that they've been through. The destitute and the disabled. How dare you treat them this way as well? It's just disgraceful. I can't fathom what's going on, apart from the fact that somewhere, somehow, I believe Trump is setting things up to benefit him and his cronies and friends. The handling of the potential insider trading, I think is just, it's writing on the wall, and he proudly, comments in the Oval Office how he made 2.5 billion for one of his friends and not only 900 million for another friend. Disgraceful, especially when you see people out there that are losing their retirement funds and things like that. He has no respect for anybody except himself. Even his cronies, the ones that he's put in place that are lying for him, he will throw under the bus at the earliest opportunity if it's against what he wants. So, really disgusting. I heard a comment this morning where I think it's the Director for Transport or whatever it happens to be, talking about the flights that have been crashing, and I can't think of the names now, the people who control the flights, saying that they're terrible people because they're retiring after 25 years of service. Now, from my understanding, this is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And good on them for staying for 25 years. Now, these people are retiring after 25 years because they've done it. And, it's understandable that they want to retire and get out of a stressful situation. But on the other hand, you're talking about them retiring, but Doge have been in there and want to get rid of a lot of these people. So you can't have it both ways. You're sacking people on one hand, and on the other hand, you're complaining if people are retiring. Make up your mind. Again, really, really crazy stuff. Look, I've gone on for way too long. This is not a paid announcement. I don't get anything for this apart from the fact that I'm getting it off my chest. Why am I doing it? Because I can see that all of this outrageous stuff that's happening in the USA is going to affect everybody worldwide. Now, what's happened with the tariffs and everything, I mean, he's tried to sell it to the people that the tariffs are going to be billed back to the country of origin. Well, that's not true. The people of the US, the consumers in the US, are the ones who pay the tariffs. So yes, it is an additional tax. What it does to the overseas countries is it means that if a US company wants the product, even though there's going to be a 10% tariff or a 25% tariff or a 255% tariff, if the people of the United States want that product because it's a better product, they will purchase it. And the companies importing it into the States will buy it. It just means that it's going to put more coffers into the US reserves because people will still buy it. If they don't want to buy it, this is where it then becomes an issue for the exporting country, because that company will no longer have that sale. What's bad for the US is there are other countries out there ready, willing and able to buy those products. Now, it may take a while for them to get that sale. It may take a while for the companies overseas to buy because they may not buy the quantity that's required. So it does hurt the exporting company. But having said that, there are companies now that are not buying product from the USA because of the tariff and because of the economic war. An example of that is China are now buying more beef from Australia. And I might say Australia has always had a surplus as far as the US trade's concerned and had a free trade agreement with the US, which has now been broken. But, companies like Japan was in the White House the other day, apparently to discuss trade. But in the meantime, of course, Japan has now been talking to China, as has South Korea, and have a lot of European countries because they're not sure what's happening in the States. So, this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it personally because what's happened with the stock market, etc., in the USA has a big impact on what happens here in Australia. So consequently, we're going through the US economic crisis because it affects our shares, it affects our economy, and for me, who is currently unemployed and may possibly never work again due to other reasons, I need to be able to live, and to live, I need my retirement. And my retirement, what we call here our superannuation, has decreased in value considerably because of what's happened in the United States. So it's not just the US that it's affecting worldwide. So why am I doing it? I'm doing it for my own greed, um, my own benefit, because I'm the one that's suffering, and that's why I'm saying it. If you want to see something, and I thought of this weeks ago, where Trump continually blames Biden and Obama for all of the crap that you're going through as far as the US people are concerned. Go and watch a movie called The American President with Michael Douglas. Towards the end, he makes a speech where he realizes that he hasn't been arguing correctly at a time of an upcoming election. Listen to his speech, and he makes comment about how he wants you to be afraid, the opposition wants you to be afraid, wants you to blame somebody, and he is giving you that information on who to blame. He's not taking responsibility. He's not saying anything apart the fact that he's attacking other people, which is exactly what Trump is doing. So anyway, it's been nearly an hour. I've probably said way too much, and I thank you if you've got to the end of this. Please feel free to comment, and I don't care whether it's Democrat or Republican. I am neither. I am for what's right, not what's wrong. So thank you if you've got this far, and I really appreciate it. Thanks very much. Bye.